So yesterday we had a patch in Call of Duty World War II that kind of changed the dynamic of how some of the more popular weapons are used within Call of Duty World War II. While it was only a handful of weapons that were tuned, not all that many in terms of, say, outside of a specific classification, SMGs, sniper rifles, and a lot of other stuff were relatively untouched. What we did get were adjustments to the toggle action shotgun, the Bren LMG. Those both had buffs, but then we also had nerfs to the BAR with a Browning automatic rifle, the BAR, the STG-44, and the FG-42 alongside with the machine pistol. Now the sniper class overall got a little bit of a quick scoping nerf to it, but that was something that none of the weapons themselves actually ended up having any attribute changes. And while a lot of people will focus on things like the FG-42 and the BAR or BAR Browning automatic rifle, whichever you want to call it, those were two of the big subjects of discussion within this patch that came out yesterday, simply because it did change a little bit of the dynamic and a little bit of the meta on how those weapons were perceived. The BAR had a fire rate decrease, which still makes it a rather decent weapon, but it does kind of balance it out with some of the other weapons you may come in contact with in gunfights. Now the FG-42, I personally don't think that I've really seen all that much of a decrease in how effective it is. It's still a monster. I was playing around with it a lot today, but the one weapon that I think that everybody seems to be overlooking, and the one that is the focus of this video in particular, is the Bren LMG. Now, a lot of the game is dominated by SMGs and rifles. That's something that, of course, is a clear cut and dry fact that pretty much year over year is something that is really a relevant statement. But with this patch, while it was the only weapon that really had a substantial increase to it and a buff to it, it's one that still, I think, is rather overlooked. I haven't seen too much talk on Twitter, on any other videos around YouTube all that much. Reddit, I don't think, has said much about it either, but the one weapon that I feel is the unsung hero, or I guess unsung powerhouse out of this patch, is the Bren. What happened to this was it had an increased damage per shot, which, believe it or not, actually makes it nearly a 2-shot at any single range across the map. Now, of course, if you're going for super long ranges, like literally from spawn to spawn, it might give some difficulties there and become a 3-shot kill, but for the most part, you can long range people and still do it in 2 shots. Now, the one thing that I think really contributes to why this is something that not many people have talked about is simply because it's an LMG. I personally am not one of those people that think of LMGs when I think of a dominant weapon, and therefore, I probably wouldn't give it all that much time of day. This patch was one of those things, though, that did open my eyes to thinking about how this could work out. I wanted to get some testing on the former versus the current FG-42, as well as the BAR or Browning automatic rifle, but then at the same time, I was thinking, you know what, why not give this a shot? Why not try the Bren just to see how much of an increase it was here, how much of a buff it ended up getting for the weapon itself? And when I tried it, admittedly, I wasn't too fond of it at the very beginning, but that's because the bare Bren is absolutely awful, but I think that might go for a lot of the weapons within Call of Duty World War II. But however, when you end up going further on, you progress it, you give it more of a chance, you can end up seeing that it does have some potential. And of course, me as an SMG and a rifle player, this is something that it took a little bit of adjusting to get used to, because it is a much slower weapon. You can't go run and gun into this, because even with quick draw, even with some of the basic trainings that really help with speed and mobility, it's still a very clunky weapon, and one that really won't be something you want to run into and try and get in everybody's face with. So obviously the biggest advantage to this weapon is that it is a 2-shot at almost any range. Once again, I've only had very few encounters in which it took 3 shots, some of which were in terms of FMJ shots, so they were through a wall or some other object, and some were just super, super long, which I very well may have missed a little bit on and therefore like grazed a foot or something like that at a super long range. But chest and up, it's one of those things that I've seen thus far is an absolute powerhouse. Now, one thing that I will recommend is a little bit of a class setup perhaps to end up checking this out for yourselves and seeing just how well it does. But a loadout I've been rocking for a little bit of time here now with this one, switching over because while armored is still a nice default division for the LMGs and everything like that, I for some reason just felt a little bit more comfortable with the infantry division on this one, simply because once again, if you have it ranked up, you get extra magazines, you also get that increased strafing movement, almost sort of like the stalker perk or ability from previous titles, and that's something that really does help with a little bit more mobility, while it doesn't really take away from the clunkiness and the weight of the weapon itself. Being able to strafe back and forth a little bit faster than with the, say, armored division is a nice little addition here to this. Now, as for this, I'm gonna be running primed on it because I feel like the more attachments on this thing, the better, simply because it is at its very base, not the greatest weapon and everything like that, but primed starts you out with 4 attachments, which once again are very handy. I rock the quick draw, extended mags, grip, and rapid fire, and a little bit about each is, of course, quick draw doesn't help tremendously in terms of the aim down sight speed and bring that up to your iron sights or your sight in general to be able to fire off a little quicker, but again, the base LMG ADS speed is so slow, so anything that helps a little bit here at this one. The grip is something that might be a little bit more interchangeable. I feel like grip in this game is more so a placebo than a lot of actual other statistical benefits to it, but maybe that placebo is just a placebo effect in and of itself. Maybe I'm just not noticing too much of a difference with or without, but nonetheless, grip definitely, I feel, helps a little bit enough to make it something that is relevant on this, because you do have a little bit of a kick. It is something that where, while the rate of fire is lower and your center speed is rather normal still, the shot intervals still don't always bring it back down if you're holding down the trigger. So it's something that grip, of course, definitely helps to keep that pull from going too far up and making it a bit of a problematic situation. And then also, one thing that I personally think is a nice addition, but does not, once again, have to be a crunch attachment here for this, is the extended mags. Personally, 30 shots is perfectly fine. You can get through a bunch of different enemies, especially with the fire rate. It is slow but powerful, but once again, I'm not the biggest fan of having to reload every 5 seconds or so like that, and if you hold down the trigger, it does go faster than you may think, and therefore, I think extended mags is definitely very nice. Now, with that said, extended mags brings your magazine capacity up to 100 shots, which 30 to 100 is a pretty big difference, so therefore you won't really have to reload all that much. I've gone through almost half a game without having to reload because my shots were more so accurate and therefore only needing 2 to 4 shots per enemy. You can see where the division comes down to that lasting a long time. Now, once again, adding this in with the infantry division, it almost becomes overkill at that point because you go from, I believe, 100 shots in your magazine and also 200 in reserve with just extended mags to having 100 in your magazine with 400 in reserve. So that in itself is a little bit more of an overkill statement and something that you don't need to necessarily rely heavily on that. So long as you have infantry with that extra attachment and then primed adds that 4th one, it is something that's beneficial, but those extra magazines kind of come along with the ranks, and therefore if you have that strafing movement at the max level, it's kind of thrown in the mix there. But to me, I think it's something that's a little overkill, but who knows? Now, the biggest thing I think out of these attachments is rapid fire, because while it doesn't increase the fire rate by, say, double, it is something that makes it a noticeable difference, and therefore, if you have rapid fire on, it does help out tremendously. We talked about that fire rate being the biggest hindrance and where the damage kind of averages out what this weapon can be, because it has such a low fire rate that damage is higher, very similar to how the Gorgon was in Black Ops 3. This is the same exact scenario, but if you put rapid fire on, it almost bumps up that ability to kill a little bit faster even, because you are getting more shots off in a shorter period of time. Of course, secondaries and tacticals or lethals aren't necessarily the biggest focus of that little tip to get the weapon itself to be powerful, but for what it's worth, I run the P08 or the 1911, depending on which class I'm feeling, and the frag grenade as well too, just to get a frag here and there that might help out. Now, of course, the weapon can be tailored to how you see fit, but I personally found this one to be great. I did enjoy some of the benefits of the armored division as well too, with some of the resistances to other things in the game, but overall I found infantry was a little bit more beneficial just because of, once again, the strafe speed, the extra magazines if you don't want extended mags on, as well as the additional weapon attachment slot as well too. But all in all, I think it's something that really has been genuinely overlooked from this most recent patch. A lot of people are really focusing on the changes to the BAR, the Browning automatic rifle, and the FG42 because those are the weapons that really stood out to everybody beforehand. But while they're gravitating more so towards those changes and those nerfs, it's something that this buff kind of went under the radar to what I believe is a lot of people. Maybe I'm completely crazy, maybe it's something that you know of and a lot of other people know of, that it's a massive powerhouse at the very moment, but the Bren is, in my books right now, one of the best weapons in the game. And that is something that is kind of, once again, that unsung hero of this patch, or unsung overpowered weapon, whatever you want to call it. It is something that 2 shots at almost any range is beautiful, firstly, and of course it is something that at the moment not many people are using, so you might be able to get a jump on them here and there. Now, who knows, maybe this becomes the next meta weapon, maybe it is the next Gorgon that really makes people mad. I guess we'll see, but I wanted to share this with you guys for those that wanted to try it out and maybe go out of your comfort zone a little bit with a weapon that you might not normally use, because I'll be totally honest, I would have never thought to use the Bren up until this patch. Until I saw that it said increased damage per shot, I was like, That's interesting. Let's check it out. So, of course, that said, you guys do not in any way, shape, or form need to try this out if you don't want to, but I thought I'd bring some attention to it because it is a weapon that is great. Not many people are using it, and I haven't seen too much talk or discussion on this as well, too. So, want to let you guys know about it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. If you guys decide to give it a try, tweet me your scoreboard picks, put it down in the comment section down below, whatever it may be. Let me know how you're doing with this, and if you guys like it or not. Of course, it is totally personal preference based, so whatever it may be, feel free to let me know. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Call of Duty World War II. We're gonna be killing it with the content coming up. We got a ton of stuff still playing on the horizon, so make sure you stick it right here so you do not miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that's out of the way, hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.